Hello everyone! So the other day I was trying to brainstorm ideas for a video and I wasn't having much for ideas. And my sister had the idea to redraw a page from my old comic. About 5 years ago, I started creating a comic called I Want to Be a Magical Girl. It was about a girl named Anne, and as you can tell by the title, she really wants to be a magical girl. In 2017, I self-published the book on Amazon. It was the first comic I completed, and I was really proud of myself for finishing it. But since it was my first comic, there's a lot of stuff that can be improved upon. Like a lot of things. So the page I am redrawing is from chapter 1. Anne wakes up in an unfamiliar place and is greeted by a boy she doesn't know. So let's start redrawing this page. So I'm going to start with storyboarding. Storyboarding is basically just trying to get an idea of how you want all of the things laid out, like the panels, the characters, the speech bubbles, all that stuff. I make my storyboards super rough and sketchy. I don't spend a lot of time drawing them because it makes it easier if I want things to be changed. If I spend a long time on them, it'd be really sad when I go to change them. So I just be super rough and messy, and pretty much I'm the only person that can understand my storyboards. So the original scene kind of felt really rushed. There wasn't much for suspense or mystery. It's just Anne wakes up and sees a boy. Also, the boy's name is Aiden. I feel like it'd be weird to call him the boy the entire video. So yeah, his name's Aiden. So I'm actually making this one-page scene into 2 pages. On the first page, we see that Anne is lying down, passed out, and then she wakes up. We then get an establishing shot showing us where she is. I really didn't like drawing backgrounds in the past, so I wasn't good about putting establishing shots so that the reader could get a sense of where the characters were and what environment they were in. I try to be a lot better about doing that now. Also, to add a little bit of mystery, I put Aiden in the foreground to kind of make the reader be like, there's another person in there and she doesn't know it. Next, we get a close-up on Anne's face. I wanted to show her being confused. And then lastly, we have her turning her head and looking shocked when Aiden speaks. The next page is pretty simple. It's only 2 panels. We get a good look at Aiden's face. And then we have Anne with a kind of concerned look on her face. After getting the layout how I like it, I move on to speech bubbles. I like to put speech bubbles before working on the art. That way I know where I don't need to draw. And I'll also know how much space I need for the bubbles, because if you draw the art first and then add the bubbles, sometimes you don't leave enough room for the bubbles and things get kind of squished. I use the pre-made bubbles in Clip Studio. Are they word bubbles or word balloons? I'll keep calling them bubbles. There are a ton of different shapes to choose from in Clip Studio. As I'm placing these, I'm trying to think of how I want to guide the viewer's eye. I want the viewer to look in a kind of zigzag motion. So it's kind of going from the left to the right to the left to the right. Oh, also this comic is read like an American comic, so it reads from left to right. It doesn't read like a manga. After adding the dialogue, I outline all of my panels using the paneling tools in Clip Studio. I used to create my panels with the line and square tools, but I found it's kind of easier to use the paneling tools. That's probably why they put them there. Also, for the panels at the bottom, I made the one on the left kind of smaller and the one on the right kind of bigger. Originally, I had them be the same size, but I wanted the one on the right where she's surprised to feel more substantial. So I made the one on the left a bit smaller, and by comparison, it makes the one on the right feel like more dramatic, if that makes sense. Now that I've added the speech bubbles, we'll go on to sketching. But before we do, I want to mention that this video is being sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community for people of all skill levels. Skillshare has thousands of classes on topics like creative writing, drawing, animation, and many more. Most classes are under 60 minutes with short lessons to fit any schedule. If you are wanting to learn more about creating comics, you should check out Drawing Comics, a beginner's guide by Ira Marks. This class is a series of basic lessons to help you with arranging characters, settings, and speech bubbles inside a panel, selecting the right tools for your project, exploring style, and illustrating stories. Skillshare is also affordable. An annual subscription is less than $10 a month. Because Skillshare is sponsoring this video, you can use the link in the description to get 2 months of Skillshare for free. You get full access to thousands of classes for 2 months at no cost to you. Thank you so much to Skillshare for sponsoring this video. So now I'm actually starting to draw the art in the panels. I usually prefer drawing on a different canvas, and then I'll copy in the sketches onto the page. Drawing inside of panels feels really constricting, and I'll tend to kind of squish things to make the drawings fit. So I find I get better results if I draw on a blank page and then copy and paste the drawings into my panel. When working on panels that includes characters and backgrounds, I like to use the 3D models in Clip Studio to assist me. Some people might say this is cheating, but to be honest, I don't really care. The 3D models make the process a lot faster and easier because I can easily play around with where I want the characters to be placed, and also puts all of the characters in the same perspective and in the same perspective as the background. It also gives me this nifty perspective ruler that makes it easier to draw the background, so that's really nice. When I work on my art for YouTube videos, I try to spend extra time making things look good or trying to make sure things aren't super wonky and stuff. But for this, I wanted to try to spend the normal amount of time and effort I usually put when working on my comics. I didn't want it to be extra fancy and detailed. I wanted to see what the comic would look like if I were making it now. These 2 pages from start to finish took me 4.5 hours, which is pretty standard for me. It was actually kind of hard working on the panel layout for a long page. My webcomic, My Next Door Neighbors, is formatted for YouTube, so all of the pages are wider than they are tall. It was really hard working on my webcomic like this at first because I wasn't used to it. But I've gotten really used to laying out the panels on a wider page, so it felt really weird going back to a longer page. Like I mentioned, I really wanted to try to pace things better in this scene. Back when I was working on I Want to Be a Magical Girl, my goal was to get it finished, and because of that, I kind of rushed things. I would try to draw the least amount of panels as possible, and I didn't totally realize how important pacing was. How you pace things can make a scene feel really different. Like this time around, I wanted it to feel more mysterious and dramatic, and I hope I accomplished that. So now that I've finished the sketching, let's move on to inking and shading. So after sketching everything out, I move on to the inking. For those of you who like to see my inking process, you'll be seeing a lot of it here. I Want to Be a Magical Girl was in black and white like a manga, so I'll also be doing these pages in black and white. Unlike this comic, My Next Door Neighbors is colored. I decided to make it colored because many other webcomics are colored. I do like My Next Door Neighbors being in color, but it is a bit more work. It was kind of nice not needing to color these pages. But it did feel a little constricting, only being able to work with different shades of gray. It also feels a little harder to portray emotion, I guess. I can kind of portray emotions with how I shade things, but with My Next Door Neighbors, I can make things feel more sad or happy depending on how I color it and what colors I use. It's something I didn't really notice I do so much until I was working on this video. While working on this, I was also feeling more self-conscious about my line work, because it doesn't have any coloring to hide behind. But I do kind of like how I can be more artsy with the black and white. Like if I leave a panel white in the background, it doesn't feel totally off. But if I leave the background white for My Next Door Neighbors, it would feel really weird. Another thing that's nice about working on books in black and white is that they are a lot cheaper to get printed. I keep looking at ways to get My Next Door Neighbors printed, but it's so much more expensive to get colored comics printed. The only way I can do it is if I order like a boatload of copies, which I don't know how many people would buy it, so... Oh, also, if after this video you are interested in purchasing my book from Amazon to see what my old work was like, I recommend getting the digital copy. Holding a physical book is really cool, but to be honest, the print quality isn't the greatest. Like, it's okay, but you can kind of see the art better with the digital version. Plus, it's cheaper, so yeah. I do earn a little more money on the print version selling, so if you want to help support me more and get a physical book, you can do that too. I'm super thankful for anyone who's bought in my book or wants to buy it, so thank you. Here I'm working on Aiden's hair. This is what it currently looks like when I think of him. While working on this comic, I never had a good grasp of what Aiden's hairstyle was. It was always kind of changing and wasn't super consistent. I pretty much always filled in his hair completely black, so I didn't put a ton of thought into how it was flowing and stuff. So current Aiden's hair looks a little bit different. But Anne still looks very much like Anne. I never had much trouble drawing her and her hairstyle. I kept feeling really sentimental while working on this, and I started tearing up a few times because Anne and Aiden are really special to me, and it was kind of weird drawing them again, but at the same time it felt really familiar, like talking to an old friend or family member that you haven't seen in a long time. It was also really cool seeing them in my current art style. If I were to fully remake I Want to Be a Magical Girl, things would be so different. I would change like everything. I would go way more into Aiden's backstory because we don't really get much on Aiden's backstory and how his powers work. I would add more characters and flesh out the plot a bit more. It would kind of not be the same story. It would also probably be like 3 times longer. Like I took this 4-panel scene and turned it into 7 panels across 2 pages. But to be honest, I have so many other ideas in my head that I want to work on in the future that I don't really want to take the time to remake my old work, even though it would be kind of fun to see how it changes. So here's the old page, and here are the new pages. It was really great getting to revisit I Want to Be a Magical Girl. And I hope you enjoyed getting to see my process and that maybe you learned something from it. If you want to see me do this again in the future with maybe another one of my old comics or even with another scene from I Want to Be a Magical Girl, you can let me know. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all next week in my next video. Bye!